how's everyone doing? My name's alittle. I'm contacting you guys here from Mission Performance and AutoWorks. So right now, it's about 3 in the morning or so, finishing up doing a little bit of examination on some of the coilovers and suspension on the Forester XT here. I just want to give you guys a quick update since it's been a little bit intermediate and I haven't had much time between work, life, and some other intermediate things with family as well. But regardless, just wanted to give you guys a shop update. Here on the 24th is the last Saturday of the month meet. Feel free to stop on out. Good people, cars, food, activities, and everything in between. Currently the project that I'm working on is a '02 Subaru WRX, which is the first year that they were imported into the USDM market beyond '96 when they were started to do manufacturing for mass production inside Japan and so forth. But regardless, this is probably about one of the worst extents that any type of Subaru or vehicle in general kind of ends up getting. And I know it's kind of a contingency to push these vehicles away because when you kind of end up getting to this, but I did know the owner, and for instances, I've done this before previously, that had multiple chains of messed up workmanship done to it, and led to a big inevitable of the vehicle just being in total shambles of mess. A good example for this vehicle, and give me one moment, I'll keep telling you guys, but the wiring harness was one thing. I initially ended up getting the vehicle in for a unknown engine, which I thought that the owner of the vehicle put it together, which was kind of a hybrid. He didn't know. More towards the end though, he ended up telling me the heads were machined, a factory head gasket went on there, not an upgraded size thickness, and I ended up measuring the rod bearing clearance, doing a compression test, and a leak down on the engine. Cylinder 4 had about 2 thousandths off on the rod bearing, which was sustainable. It still had about 3 thousandths to about 5 thousandths more within specification of tolerance. And then another thing with the suspension, I had to put Forester struts and everything on the back and remove the sway bars because that's the only way that you can put them on to the Subaru WRXs, fortunately. But after getting the engine situated and making sure that it was susceptible to end up being started and putting another oil pan, checking the oil pickup because you know they crack, and especially around this year. So wanted to make sure the vehicle was safe for the customer and we weren't going to end up spending all this time for not a susceptible reason. I mean, if the engine wasn't good, then I wouldn't have proceeded with all the work. But after doing that, I was informed that there was a piggyback ECU, which is a turbo XS, which is utilizing serial ATA from late 1990s to around mid 2000s. This was the main production for it. It's currently discontinued. But unfortunately, the way that this person that had the car twice previously before the current owner had a lot of issues. They didn't have any logical idea of any type of wiring concept or electrical intuitive within any kind of sense, if I may say. Unfortunately, I don't like to knock people down, but this is a circumstance that literally, if I had a little plastic hammer, I'd beat the guy on the head with it a few times because it's horrific. So after figuring out it had the aftermarket ECU and everything, the wiring harness looks fairly good. I didn't put the wiring harness in, so I thought it was susceptible. Till I did a little bit further looking within my diagnosis upon things, and ended up seeing that some of this had mismatched colors of things. I could see with side. It looked like a factory harness, had the plastic shrouding, had a whole bunch of electrical tape. Looked factory, old, dirty, fair. Until I ended up pulling it back. So this is the main plug that typically will end up going into the fuse panel, to the PCM, and so on forth. What I want to end up exemplifying for you guys here today, though, is whoever was the previous owner of this vehicle, these are for your fuel injectors right here. These things that look like little Batman connectors. And what else? Here is your ignition coils, the black and white ones, thin wires. So we're missing a ground wire from both of these. They have a single lead of power, and then they go up, and let me show you guys this consplicer. So, as you guys can see, I don't know if you guys can see with the coloring right now, these are 4 reds, and then this is 1 white, which the white is the ground here, and this is a fuel injector plug I'm holding. For some reason, he had the emphasis that the PCM needed 1 lead and 1 ground wire, and the fuel injectors and ignition coils, you wired all of them together, and I don't know, he magically thought it ended up making the car work. Luckily, I seen he tried messing with the sending wire on the mass airflow, which is the pink one. Probably shouldn't be telling people this because I don't need this happening again to any other cars. But I mean, as you can see, like it looks fairly factory until you actually like start getting into things, and then you actually see and you peel back the harness. So I was able to end up getting that fixed. I ended up getting another engine harness for the client here. But even further back, I ended up proceeding upon that from the fuse panel on the driver hand side, and also the wiring going into the passenger hand side of the vehicle was also tampered with within a small substitute of things for the exhaust gas temperature and the O2 sensor. It was damaged. It wasn't unfortunately cut or messed with. It was messed with a little bit, but it was okay. I fixed it. It was a big part. So even after doing all of that, I wasn't getting a lot of codes inside the car, and I knew that this was a prevalence that some of these sensors were going to go bad, the TGVs were going to be stuck. I ended up getting some type of code either for the cam crank position sensor for not starting, because it would crank over but it wouldn't end up starting. Pulled the panel off of the PCM, checked everything, pulled out the wiring, removed the piggyback, and then I ended up getting a COP access port because, as I recommend to all my clients, if you can end up staying factory, that's going to be the most safest alternative overall. If not, go with a reputable company that supplies it, because luckily Cobb, they have the financial expense and the passion and dedication towards actually providing a quality product, and they test vehicles for hours on hours, put another part, test it again, and then they spend a high inquiry of money rather than what we can do on just a dyno or something, where you can honestly get the vehicle dialed in a little bit more within the subsequence of that. But it's kind of better if you can just kind of get it up and going, and then if you do need to end up getting things dialed in, at least you have a base map to end up working off for your tuner, rather than going from the factory PCM and kind of working up from there. Especially, you may have limitations on what your map sensor and some of the other parameters inside the actual PCM that can be accessed and altered and added to make the vehicle all the fun stuff that we end up liking with inside the vehicles. But back upon that, even the shifter, it was elongated all the way back and all this stuff, so I had to end up fixing that. I checked the trans out. It seems to be kind of subsequent. It has a blue gear oil in it, so I don't know if that's factory or whatnot. I've never ended up seeing that before previously, so if you guys have any information upon that, let me know, because it looks nasty, smells nasty, and kind of is nasty. That had a couple issues as well with the drivetrain. I ended up getting that all sorted out. We got the axles back in it today. Engine starts up and everything. I'm trying to think. The timing. Okay, so the car had a quote-unquote new timing belt and tensioner and idlers and all this other stuff. So I guess Gates kind of outsources some of their stuff to Koyo now. But more of the main issue is that if you don't end up utilizing a press or a vice grip or something to end up slowly compressing the piston down within a 1 minute time frame, and then decompressing it and actually purging it of any air that's in it, it will cause the tensioner sometimes to be faulty, not reset, and the car gets thrown off timing, engine gets damaged because it's an interference engine, unfortunately. And that causes all types of issues, and it's never much fun. Even the belt was kind of stretched, but then some points you could kind of just slide it on. I ended up getting it fixed though. I had another tensioner, and as well, we ended up purging that and putting the new pulley and everything on it, so it's subsequent within that, so it's not really much of a big deal. Car even had a VF30, STI pink injectors, diverted downpipe, had a weird mid-pipe on the headers. I don't know what this is. It's a smaller diameter than the actual flow parameters of the actual two channels for the engine on these EJs. I don't know, it's kind of an odd setup. And I mean, as I said, I had a piggyback ECU, and I had some, I believe these are from either a RS series or maybe a predate 90s or early 2000 STI. They're reds, but the actual piston of the actual strut itself is a very large, maybe around a 1 inch in diameter, which is quite sufficiently large because most of them are about half of that or so. So that was pretty interesting. But after getting all that set up back there, I have currently the stage 2 map ran on there because where you're running the green USDM WRX injectors for the side feed, which are, I believe, are only a 465cc, not the 565 that the pinks are. We're kind of contemplating, because we have a JDM engine, getting some other conversion plugs for the actual injectors to end up utilizing the JDM injectors with the USDM harness, or if not, I may be able to pin it out for him and get him something set up, since he does still have the factory one over there. But I don't really want to cut it or anything, but I think it already is cut towards the actual PCM, so it's kind of already a caboose. And actually, I have one over here. I forgot about that. So no, I'll get that all set up for him too. But it won't be any type of wiring like you guys just seen there, though. It'll actually be pinned out with actual proper pins, and I'll actually have the connector and everything. It won't be spliced and tied or soldered or anything. I mean, sometimes it's a susceptible state, but a lot of times if you can just repin something, do it right, get a connector for it, that's kind of the more susceptible way if you have enough cabling. But if not, properly actually joint those actual cables together rather than some of the other procedures that happens. I'm really hoping I win this drivetrain thing that I kind of entered in for. My birthday's coming up here on the 23rd, so I'm kind of excited for that. I don't know, the fuzz, I don't know. I know last time I ended up having on the dyno with the 4.44 gear ratio, and I was making 328 and 323 to the wheels, so it's around 100 horsepower, drivetrain loss 25 per wheel with around a 15 to 25% drivetrain loss, so it's pretty good. It has 180,000 miles. The compression and leak down seem to check out on all the cylinders, so I don't know. The 04 and 05s had a EJ255 block with the EJ257 STI forged internals, with also the side feed 565 injectors and higher flow map sensor, and as well had a TD04 and the intercooler and the 6 speeds are pretty much the only things that you kind of were missing out, and on some of the interior trim pieces. But around this year, I really wish I had a Forester STI, but she's getting there. I got some WRX seats over there we're going to end up putting in, but I don't know, I just want to give everyone kind of an update upon this. Like, as I said, the car came in, I didn't know how the heads were, and even the big issue, since he ended up machining it and using a factory head gasket, is with that closing the squinch ratio of the actual compression or the power stroke, and it also brings the valves even closer, so if you do advance the timing, so that's why currently I have around 2 or 3 degrees retarded on the engine, or the ignition timing. The engine speed I have at a susceptible kind of state already as is, so that kind of slows things down. But the main issue with having that, when you close down that squinch area and you bring that head even closer towards that piston, you don't have much tolerance between things. So right now, unfortunately, if you machine, which I'd hope, if you took it to a shop, maybe around 1,000ths at most, maybe 15 thousandths off, I hope. He's going to be running right now around a 9:4:1 to a 10:4:1 compression ratio. 10 parts air, 4 part fuel, 1 part NOx. So unfortunately, that's a virtue that ended up happening. But if the engine is getting low compression within some of the cylinders due to poor ringland gapping or something, because I don't know, this was a very, very cheap block. It was $150, and I'll let you guys hear it here in just a moment. I'm going to go start it because I'm finished with the Forester, but I just want to give you guys this update. But I don't know, he's running the VF30 turbo on it, so I'm going to try to keep him down to maybe around 10 to 12 psi, nothing more than 16, because if he runs 16, he's going to have an effective compression ratio almost 19 to 1 to 20 to 1 at that point. So he's kind of going to be pushing it. So we're trying to keep things more to a efficiency, safety, and conservative basis for this WRX out here. I've ended up dealing with another WRX that had the timing thrown off and the vehicle tried starting multiple times, and wiring, fueling, coolant, everything. Engine was put in, messed up. I mean, even that one out there, the blue one, had the pilot bearing all backwards, and the flywheel was machined improperly, and many different misconstrued just things, unfortunately, that ended up happening. But the owner ended up putting his faith within me, and that's kind of the only susceptible part. I try to do my best in providing customers with quality service and products, and ensuring their safety, confidence, and satisfaction with inside their vehicles. Because I've been with inside the industry for the past 10 years, and past 7 years within actual hands-on inside other shops. The other was pretty much doing research and development and doing pretty much friends, family, and small little Craigslist stuff at that point in time, luckily, which got me by within the sequence of things. I mean, as you guys can see, but it's kind of brought my health to a very bad diminishment at this point. So I'm trying to end up doing the best that I can, and as well just being a single, pretty much sole proprietary, or the only one that facilitates any work here, unfortunately. So I try to end up doing my best. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible, and we'll get whatever, if it's either a repair or a modification or a overall build plan for a vehicle, we can more than susceptibly end up getting that set up. As you guys can see within the sequence of things, it is more than a efficiency and more than a plausibility and reliability to end up having some of this stuff done within the subsequence of things. And I don't know, all we really can do is try in life, and we can try our best, and that's kind of the stigma that I have. It doesn't matter if it's a bolt, a table, or building a car for somebody. I always do the absolute best at it. I don't know, as my father always told me, do things right or don't do them at all, and that's kind of the subsequence of things. And I don't know if I can ever end up getting a grant or anything to end up going to school for biofuels or chemical engineering or anything within such nature, that would be super excellent, because I can most certainly assure you I can end up providing a much more sustainable, efficient, and environmentally friendly and more sustainable fuel concept than even ethanol or any other petroleum-based fuels that are currently out there to the market, unfortunately. Hopefully I'm not going to end up getting whacked off because of that, but I don't know. The only thing we can try to do is improve things here in life, and that's what we always try to end up doing. So if you guys, as I said, need any parts service or have any questions, just feel free to let me know. I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible. We'll get most certainly something set up, and yeah, I don't know, hopefully I kind of answered you guys' question, give you guys a little bit of primacy and a background, and show you guys some of the exquisite fun that happens here at Mission Performance and Auto Works. So I appreciate you all for watching. Have a nice rest of your day, and actually stay tuned, because we're going out there. Here, I'm going to keep that rolling, actually. Now, if it was earlier in the day, I'd honestly rev up the cars and do all that fun stuff, but if you guys come out here on the 24th and everything, I'll end up having some special treats for you guys out there. Sounds like a plan to me, at least.